From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now, or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined, as always, with our super producer, Alexis, codename Doc Holliday Jackson. Most importantly, you are here, and that makes this stuff they don't want you to know. It's the top of the week, which means it is time for some strange news. We're learning more about the animals we share the world with in a very interesting way. We're learning more about corruption in law enforcement. And perhaps a case you may not have heard of. This is one that Matt said will terrify people with a significant other. And we have a breaking report as we record today about a would-be active supervillainy that is very plausible. And it came very close to killing people.
And that's where we're starting.
Okay, yes, all right. Very well then, gentlemen. So you may or may not be familiar with a town called Oldsmar, Florida. It's not super big. It has a population of 13,591. It is, if you look at it on a map, it's part of Pinellas County, which is it's on the Gulf side of Mexico side of Florida. So if you're looking at the map, it's on the left. It's not panhandle country. It's kind of in the scoop out of the Gulf.
Mm-hmm. And it's right over there by Clearwater and St. Petersburg.
Shout out Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
We don't believe Scientology is involved with the story you are about to hear today. But again, this is fresh-baked news. This town is, like many towns in the U.S., it has infrastructure, right? It has traffic lights, it has sewage, it has electricity. It also has water treatment, waste treatment. Anybody who has looked into conspiracy theories about fluoride and what exactly goes into your local tap water is aware that water treatment plants are they're one of those boring things to protect. You know what I mean? Like everybody wants to save the beautiful building or the historic monument.
The whales.
The whales, yeah, or the fuzzy, big-eyed mammals. But no one really wants to make a news story about just how vulnerable our wastewater and water treatment plants are. Here's what happened. Someone remotely accessed the city's water treatment system very recently in Oldsmar, Florida, and they just through this exploit, they were able to increase the amount of sodium hydroxide by a factor of more than 100 in the water system. Sodium hydroxide is the fancy name for what we call lye. LYE. Lye is used in very small amounts to control the acidity of water, but it is also, most recognizable to a lot of us as an ingredient in household cleaning supplies.
Also a product many true crime fan buffs out there might recognize as being used when disposing of bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back in the day when it was way easier to get rid of a body, I'm telling you guys. But the point of this is that if you want to picture it in simplified terms, perhaps oversimplified, someone, without ever physically entering this treatment system, someone was able to pour drain cleaner into the town. So they made it such that people were possibly drinking drain cleaner from a faucet. And then, of course, if there's a refrigerator that makes ice cubes automatically, that's another factor that plays in. Why are we being somewhat glib and cheerful describing this? Well, in this case, this one time, it turns out that they were able to prevent this disaster from occurring. This like supervillain Breaking Bad level plausible scheme. The city's water supply was thankfully not affected because there was a supervisor at the water treatment plant who, like many of us these days, was working remotely, working from home. And picture this guy. He's just got his computer screen up, right? He's looking at water levels and picture whatever metrics you want to picture here. Let's go early 2000s hacker movie, and let's just say there's a screen that cartoonishly explains what's going on because they can't do exposition VO or whatever. It's not the right part of the story. This guy's looking at the screen, and he sees the sodium hydroxide level just sort of and he goes, oh, dang. Good thing I don't have to put my pants on and go over there. Delete. City officials today said that they had instituted several safeguards after this. They want to, going forward, have a system to prevent any water that could have been contaminated from reaching the public. And they also, hopefully, will be a little more mindful of how people are able to access their system. At this point, nobody has been arrested. There are some leads. No one knows why Oldsmar, Florida, was targeted in this attack. And other infrastructure hubs are on the lookout in Pinellas and in adjacent counties. It's weird because the authorities are saying that even if they hadn't caught this, it would have taken more than a day, more than 24 hours for this water that was being processed with lye to enter the water supply. This story is interesting. We don't have all the details yet because it literally was happening today before we recorded. If the lye did enter the water supply in this concentration, it could cause massive damage to people's skin. It could cause hair loss. This is according to the National Center of Biotechnology Information. Most importantly, folks, ingestion of this stuff, as we know from crimes of previous decades, ingestion of this stuff can be fatal. It eats bodies. This got me thinking. I wanted to share this story with you guys. This got me thinking about the bigger picture. Like years ago on car stuff, I learned that it is terrifyingly easy for someone to hack into your local municipality's traffic light system. Like, it's stupid easy. It's weird that it doesn't happen more often. But what do you guys think about this story? Like, what's your opinion on the water supply in general? We're very lucky in this country to be able to drink directly from a faucet in most places outside of Flint, Michigan.
I agree. I will say this, though. Like, my daughter refuses to drink tap water. I think the tap water at my house tastes pretty good, but she is convinced that it is poisonous.
Well, I wonder, well, we know that there's a certain level of allowable stuff in any water system because it's nearly impossible to remove it at scale, like remove everything completely at scale. You know, that's perhaps one of the reasons why, what would you call those? Like at the tap filtration, at the refrigerator level.
Like a Brita filter.
Yeah, Brita filter, or even becoming very popular now are filters that you actually put on your house, like underneath your house, that adds an extra level of filtration to all water coming into your home. It makes sense, I think. I have a cousin who, she's got like an 8-level filtration system for all of her water that's considered potable that she will drink, she and her husband. And it's incredible and intricate, and the water tastes fine when it comes through the system. It tastes very similar to me, to other water produced in her area. But it's, you know, there's a level of anxiety about it, I think, because we kind of all know now that fact that there's going to be some stuff in there. Yeah,
you're absolutely right, Matt. The thing about most retail filters, or many retail filters, and we're not selling these here, the thing about most of those is that they do not filter out heavy metals, right? Even if you are someone who has a life straw, it's a tremendous device. Even if you're someone who has a life straw in your go bag or something like that, that will allow you to drink from still water, and it will kill many biological contaminants. But even with the top-notch water treatment of Europe or the US, etc., what you'll see is that the water post-treatment still contains things like aluminum or copper, iron, lead, pesticides, sometimes uranium for that tang. And and these contaminants all compose dangerous side effects, but people working in water treatment are top notch with the research on this. The allowable parts per million threshold, it's not something arbitrary, nor is it something made up out of thin air, like we've seen in our earlier show on Mead, Nebraska.
I mean, would you consider this an act of domestic terrorism? Or
Yes.
just like a really mean-spirited prank?
Yes, it's an act of domestic terrorism, technically.
Yeah, for sure. It is pretty astounding that these systems that you could control chemicals like that remotely, like they exist with some kind of VPN access or some kind of, remote access built into them. That's kind of creepy.
What positive factor does the lye have anyway? Why is there a lye tap going into the water supply? I mean, I can't imagine the filtration is like variable. Or is it saying that like the hacker essentially changed a parameter that allowed more lye to get through the filters, or actually introduced more lye into the water supply?
What it seems to be is that they were able to do both. They were able to influence the constraints of the measurement, which inherently allowed more lye into the system. Why they did it, we don't know. One of the easiest, lowest hanging fruits as far as a lead would go would be maybe a disgruntled employee, someone who had the knowledge of the thing. At this point, we don't know how much other stuff, if any, this hacker did, but we do know, and I think it's instructive for all of us listening today, we do know that these systems, of course, because they are boring and necessary, they are not subject to a lot of scrutiny as much as they should be. Like, we have people focused on making sure the water is safe to drink.
Sure.
We don't have people focused on making sure the water system is secure. Like when we talked about when we talk about fluoride in the water, we got into the weeds on how many parts per million are allowed to exist, right, in your drinking water, and why it's there. And people still have a problem with that.
Luckily, I mean, it was a supervisor that caught this on a whatever, like an interface if he's working remotely, and was able to see the parameter being changed. You did say this, Ben, at the very top, though, there are small amounts of lye used to help reduce the acidity of water supply. So obviously they've got a supply of it somewhere that's being fed in the same way that like fluoride and other compounds that go in and help treat the water. But yeah, that's a nasty one, man. I can imagine if they just had succeeded and flooded the supply, people would have been like getting, their esophaguses like corroded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is Ben, I think we talked, I don't know if you mentioned this, the relative number of people that could have been affected there in Oldsmar. I know it's a handful of, or many businesses, but then about 15,000 residents. So the good thing is that they're kind of separated away with the Oldsmar water treatment facility to get their water. That's what was affected, not the larger Pinellas County water systems.
Right. And when I mentioned that supervisor at the top who caught this and prevented this disaster, I hope you're listening, sir or madam, whomever you are. I am sorry that we don't know your name yet, but in my book, you're a hero. And that's a hell of a thing to learn at 8 a.m. in the morning. So like I was saying, picture that remote access screen. One interesting note here is that, of course, if that person who works there is able to access this system remotely, then it follows that it is not impossible for a bad actor to access this. And think about if someone is motivated enough, think about how easy it is to set something up such that you never see a red light again. It's all green lights when you're driving. Think about how easy it is to shut down parts of an electric grid, right? Electricity grid. We need to be aware of this stuff and not to be super dystopian about it, but I can see many more of these things on the way. And a lot of them happen and don't get reported outside of your local news. So stay safe, folks. Also, don't hack your water system. And if you want to give everybody in your global neck of the woods some kind of crazy psychedelic experience, just know this. You probably will not be able to control the dosage. First off, you'll need a ton of it. Just walking through why you shouldn't do this. You also won't be able to guess the ripple effects or the consequences, because water is like that Baby Shark song. It goes fucking everywhere.
Do 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 do.